Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Avatar Rewatch. I am Nick from the Phoenix Press, and joining me is the ever awesome Jared from Comics League.
That's right, I am awesome. How are you, Nick?
At the end of my days when I'm through, no word that I've written will make my souls burn. Burn what you burn.
I meant to play F off Bard.
Season.
That's season 2. Okay, that's not Avatar related though, but like I meant to play F off Bard, but
I missed that one. Can you just play it for old time's sake?
Fuck off, Bard.
all right.
I love that.
I really need to get okay. So now we're recording from StreamYard. If you haven't have guessed, yeah, I need to get some Avatar clips. If we're gonna be doing this, I need to get some Avatar clips. But anyway, so we're doing the 6th episode of Avatar, and I'd like to say this is kind of like a continuing of the trend of like serious topics, where like the show is exploring some really deep topics. So basically, they're still in the Earth Kingdom. They come across someone practicing their earthbending, and it turns out they're in a Fire Nation occupied Earth Kingdom village.
But even for the humor moment, I love how Sokka's like, okay, we have to approach very tactically and quietly and see if we can get the surprise on him. And there's Korra. Hi. I love that. That was so good.
She gives zero fricks.
Again, this is why I love this show, is that they have serious moments and they just put in humor really well, as opposed to like He Who Must Not Be Named, who doesn't do that well.
I mean, this is kind of a spoiler alert, but like, I think it's like second or third season. There's literally a moment where Sokka goes, "Sneak attack!" and Aang goes, and he says, "Sokka, it's not a sneak attack if you call it out."
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
So it's actually going to be a while before we get to that, so you'll probably forget it. But like when he's like, you'll be like, "Oh, I remember him telling me about that."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, so we're kind of getting into like what the show is actually really good at is distilling themes of like war, occupation, and showing the effects of war on a civilian level.
This is honestly when you can think of this show. Yeah, it's a cartoon, superhero cartoon. You can consider it a war cartoon.
Because I honestly feel like Avatar tackles topics that even some adult, not even adult cartoon, but adult shows are afraid to tackle.
And it does it in a way that it's not like because it could easily go overboard and go like The Boys level and not do this. But being a kid's show, that's why I applaud the writers, because you have to be really creative to be able to cover these topics in a way that's not too crazy, in other words.
And not talk down either, because like you as an adult can watch this show and still actually get stuff from it. Like that's why I feel like the comparisons to Batman the Animated Series with this show are perfectly valid.
Oh yeah. You may think it's a kid's show purely because it's a cartoon, and if you do think that, you're superficial.
Essentially it is a kid's cartoon, but like as I mean, we literally talk about comic books and whatnot. Like kids, just because it's a kid's cartoon doesn't mean it can't be more than that. I mean, look at Avatar, Gargoyles, Batman the Animated Series,
Transformers, even.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, going back to this, yeah, I definitely like this. I was telling Nick before we started recording that this is probably my favorite episode and there are many different reasons for that. Number one, because the humor, but number two is because one of the things that I love to like research besides comic books is war and military history, and so far this show has done a fantastic job of using a fictional war to depict like war scenarios. It's like occupation,
prisoner of war camps,
exactly, abuse in prisoner of war camps. It's really like I'm astounded,
because like so basically they're rounding up anyone who has earthbending, and you could call it an atrocity, but like on the same token, you could spin it as anyone who's an because like anyone who's an earthbender is potentially a gun. Okay, they are potentially resistance, and it would be sound military doctrine to eliminate that potential threat. You know,
Yeah.
it's like a route. If you take out all the guns of a populace, bending is essentially a gun.
Yep. It's pretty. They made that same argument in like I think it was like Civil War for Marvel, where they said, okay, you essentially have a gun. They use the same argument. For the X-Men.
That's essentially like
Really, when you
X-Men
think about it,
storytelling.
This show is really reminiscent of the X-Men in that the mutants are the Benders, are all the Benders except for the Fire Nation. The Fire Bending Nation are the humans in this scenario.
Going on a tangent here for a second. It's funny you just mentioned like the gun argument being in X-Men. Literally, Senator Kelly makes that exact argument in the first X-Men movie. It's like, doesn't these mutants have the power of a loaded handgun? You know, it's just kind of funny you brought that up because that's first X-Men movie.
We're gonna talk about that on movie night. Absolutely, we have to.
Yes. And another cool really thing about this episode is it's got some star power.
Oh my.
Yeah, immediately I was watching this while I was making a smoothie. Then I legit stop as soon as I hear that voice. I'm like, wait a minute.
And you can there's actually a moment where he does say "oh my," but in kind of like a muted tone, like as part of the dialogue. He doesn't do the whole thing.
For a second there, you know who I thought of first? Locke Durd from Clone Wars, because he plays that separatist general from the Lemur episode. And immediately I thought of that. I'm like, wait, who plays that? Oh! I was like, that was so funny.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, George Takei is he's most famous for playing Sulu on Star Trek, though more younger people be like, oh, he's that funny guy from Twitter.
Funny guy is debatable, but I see what you're going.
Well, he was. I mean, I'm trying to get the politics out of it.
Yeah, no, and for feuding with Shatner, but that's besides the point.
Failing to feud with Shatner. Because if you just look at it, Shatner's like, I don't care.
How could you feud with Shatner? The dude's a nice guy. He's a sweetheart.
Apparently, he has had some like prima donna levels on set, but
well, he played Captain Kirk, and you played essentially. Granted, I know this is really off topic, but granted, a lot of the bridge crew were the main characters, but people really go there for Captain Kirk.
I mean, also not to mention how William Shatner has actually had a pretty good career after Star Trek, like T.J. Hooker and like what was it, Boston Legal? Like he was actually on a bunch of like really landmark shows. He actually had a really proficient career. He was on an episode of Twilight Zone, Nightmare.
And he's a comic book fan.
Yeah. Also, Jared. Okay, this is way off topic, but have you ever seen the movie Fanboys?
Yes, I have. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. He gives them
My favorite scene is to get the plans to Skywalker Ranch. The secret rebel plans.
Yeah.
They get them from William Shatner, and they even call it out in the scene. They get it out like, William Shatner, what are you doing here? It's like,
and I love where they're being interrogated by Lucasfilm, and they ask him, "Did William Shatner send you?" By the way, I'm making an executive decision. That's going to be a movie night too. We have to cover that movie.
It's like I love it because it's with love. It's a loving parody.
It's a loving parody of nerd culture. I love it.
It has the best ending ever. It has the best ending ever. They're going to see episode 1.
Yeah.
The last line is, "Hey, what if this movie sucks?" Cut to black.
Yeah, I love that because I love the pimp, and he goes, "I got a tattoo of Jar Jar. That guy's gonna be awesome."
You realize that's Seth Rogen, right?
Yeah, I know. He plays multiple characters in that movie.
Also, Carrie Fisher is in it. And
You're my only hope.
And he's like, "I love you." And she says, "I know." It's like
Billy D. Williams. They have so many famous people in this movie. But anyway,
oh my god. Okay, this is the last thing I'm gonna say. Billy D. Williams has like the best like guest starring role on that 70s show. He is a preacher who loves Star Wars, and he makes his sermons about Star Wars. It's so great. Like
that's good. That's great.
The only better guest starring role in that 70s show is when you had The Rock playing his father, Rocky Johnson.
That's good.
I'm sorry. Avatar.
Another thing I loved about this show is how many times they said, "Act natural."
They don't act natural.
And then my absolute the part that made me laugh the most is when they're faking being an airbender. The rock goes up, and the Fire Nation goes, "The lemur is earthbending." Then he goes, "No, you idiot! It's the girl." Oh, and then Sokka goes, "I'll hold her for you."
Oh yeah, and there's another also. I just love how Appa is like the most adorable dog in the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We promise Appa won't eat his hay, and then he looks over, it's like, did the F you say? I just love like the look. He's just, I want to hug Appa so bad.
Oh, me too.
I just want to give him belly rubs.
And I like the creative use of bending in this. And what I mean is that they're bending like coal, which is a rock, so it does work for earth bending.
So they're rolling coal.
So you could say they're rolling stone. I also love how there's mad like foreshadowing at the beginning of this episode where Sokka is outlining all the nuts they have, and he goes, "Okay, and we have these rocks that look like nuts, or they may be actual rocks."
Also, can we just give a shout out to Sokka where it's like, we're not gonna do this. We're not gonna do this. Okay, like he is like he like, I love how as soon as it's decided, he's like, okay, I'm gonna make sure you don't die. Like that. Basically, he's only going along with this. Like, I don't want you to die, Katara. So I'm just gonna go. Like, fine. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna. Like, I love how he immediately switches. Like, that is great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, I just really like the reality of it. Like, you know, when she's giving that speech, you know, and it's like, yeah, nothing happens. You know, like even the warden knew.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, look at the defeated look in all their faces. Because that's how you stop the prisoners from revolting around obvious sources of earthbending. You just say, you can't stop us. You break their will. Yeah, military tactics again.
And that's something that the kind of the Fire Nation excels at. You know, and like in most stuff, all it takes is one person to literally stand up, and then the rest of the people find it again. Like, I would think the father in that moment, he was more defending his son than he was thinking about fighting. That's why I think, because you notice he just earthbended a shield. I think he did that without thinking, really.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Also, can we give a shout out to Michael Richardson for voicing that role? Like, that guy has the most badass voice ever.
He has one of the most iconic voices, because let's face it.
Don't worry, I hear cowards float.
Yeah, I love that. I can't swim. Don't worry, I hear cowards float. Yeah, I guarantee you, anyone watching this has seen a cartoon with that dude's voice.
Yeah, lots of DC and Batman stuff. I'm pretty sure he's voiced the Joker at some point, I think.
I'm sure he has.
Oh, I mean, he's probably voiced Batman too.
Yeah, most likely. That voice was like mad familiar. I was like, where have I heard that from?
So yeah, I mean, this first kind of part of the season, they're kind of doing a bunch of standalone stuff, but like, you noticed how at the tail end of it, she lost her necklace, but Zuko picked it up. Like, they're kind of doing that, like, oh, this wasn't like most of it, but like, you got to watch that 1% where it's like, oh, story going forward.
Yeah, because what the show is doing is that it's telling like arguably isolated stories of them going through training to be Avatar, but they also have that one through line of they're being hunted by this one dude that's trying to get redemption for whatever happened in the fire.
Yeah, I call it the Buffy model of storytelling, where like Buffy always had like a season-long arc, and they mostly did standalone episodes, but like the last 5 minutes of the show, they'd somehow tie it into the overall arc, or like at some point in the show, there'd be like little scenes here and there. They moved it forward, you know, and then...
Well, it's kind of like what the MCU did back in the day to build up to Thanos, kind of.
Yeah, like little kind of nuggets here and there. And then like phase 2 and 3 is basically like, oh, which Infinity Stone is going to be here now? Yeah, something that... yeah, let's not get into MCU bashing. We do that too much.
I was trying to compliment the MCU.
Oh, and you did, and I appreciate it. So
thank you. As hard as it is as a DC fan to do.
Yeah. So so far, what are your thoughts on the show so far?
Oh, really good. Like, again, I say this every week, but Why wasn't I watching the show beforehand?
What?
Yeah, I know. I deserve that one. But it's because I had so much other stuff I was watching at the time that I just couldn't fit this in. So
Fuck off, Bond.
I missed that clip. I missed that clip so much.
I need to do more streams on my channel or like these kind of shows or whatever.
Yeah, whatever happened to Friday Night Frenzy?
I lazy, motivation really.
See, at least you're being honest. I like that. But yeah, but it's super cool. Again, I like how it's doing a lot of mature themes, but telling it sort of in a kid show, kind of like what Clone Wars did too. That's another example of that comes to mind.
So next week is the two-parter, the Winter Solstice, which last week we told we were going to be doing in 2 parts. So next week you guys are getting a double episode. So that one's going to be about a half hour, 45 minutes roughly, because that's going to be 2 episodes. That's going to be a 2-parter. There's going to be a lot to talk about. And then we're going to go back to single episodes. Just because it's a 2-parter, I feel like it's best to do
there's no reason to split that up.
Yeah, so let's kind of end this kind of right here. So this has been Nick from the Phoenix Press. And remember, I can only show you the door. You're the ones to walk through it.